I watched as a very incompetent mayor from Chicago said, well, what do they know? They only arrested 9 people. I said, 9 people? We didn't arrest 9 people. We actually arrested a total of well over 1,000 people. We took hundreds of guns away from young kids that were throwing them around like it was candy. We apprehended scores of illegal aliens. We seized dozens of illegal firearms. There have been 0 murders. It sounds sort of terrible to say. It's embarrassing. I did this over the weekend. I'm making a speech, and I acted like I was so proud as I said, we've had 0 murders in the last week. And some of these people were from foreign countries. They said, that doesn't sound so good. And I said, well, it doesn't sound good, but Washington was the most dangerous place in this country. And now, you know what? It's probably the safest place in our country. Everyone's starting to come here. The restaurants now you can't get in. Many of them closed because they couldn't open with crime. Everybody before me is happy what I'm doing. Most of you won't say that because you're radical left. The newspapers are so dishonest. The press is totally dishonest, but that's all right. We've gotten used to it. And we won in a landslide, so they obviously lost their power. I mean, it's impossible to imagine that when you get 97% negative stories, purposely negative stories, even though you've done 97% positive things, that you could win an election in a landslide, winning all 7. Gavin Newsom's a disaster. When we went, we saved Los Angeles. You wouldn't have been able to have the Olympics in Los Angeles. You're barely able to have it now. They did lose 25,000 houses to a fire that should have never occurred because they didn't let the water come down from the Pacific Northwest, which you guys don't want to write about. I had to break into the water supply to let the water down. And even now, we want more. We can have much more. It's less than half of what should be coming in. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization. Okay, let's go. Could I ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America have adopted.
All of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
So important. And this isn't Republican, Democrat. This is, and by the way, most Democrats agree with this. But this is just, we got to bring our country back. Okay? That's a big one.
Also on the issue of cashless bail, sir, this is a D.C.-specific executive order. In addition to the measures that we're taking that are quite similar to what we're doing around the country, in D.C. in particular, the objective is holding as many criminal defendants in federal custody and subjecting them to federal charges as possible. That means that they'll be held pre-trial in federal jail as opposed to just being cut back out on the streets due to a cashless bail policy.
Okay.
President Trump has signed an executive order to end cashless bail in Washington, D.C. And he also threatened to withhold federal funding if the city refuses to comply. The president made it clear he plans to take the measure further, targeting places like New York and Illinois as well. CBS News legal contributor and former prosecutor Rebecca Roiphe joins us now to speak about this. Good morning, Rebecca. Great to have you in person rather than via the web. For once, Cashless bail is a relatively new concept, but many of our viewers may not really understand what it is or why it exists. So what is the idea behind it?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, Errol. It's great to be here. So, yeah, I mean, bail itself is essentially a cash guarantee that somebody who's charged with a crime will come back to court. So cashless bail eliminates that requirement that somebody pay money in order to assure it. It basically says, if you're let out of jail, you just promise to come back to court. And this is something that some inner cities, some more progressive jurisdictions have introduced in order to make sure that people who are presumed innocent, obviously, introduced.
And look at this, guys. These states are the ones that have a lot of crime too. So you got to think, if you have cashless bail, a lot of these people are going to get out of jail. They're not going to come back to court ever.
To make sure that people who are presumed innocent, obviously, before they've been tried, are not kept in jail simply because they do not have enough money to pay this cash bail requirement.
And you and I were speaking before this segment. There was a case here in New York City of a young man.
And okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. If they are actually innocent, they shouldn't be staying in that jail. We definitely need cash bail to show that, you know, hey, you're going to be coming back to determine if you're guilty or not. And if you are presumed not guilty, you should get that money back, in my opinion. I don't know how it works. I'm not going to jail and all the time and figuring these stuff out. This is some new stuff that I'm learning.
And who was taken to Rikers Island for stealing a backpack. I think the $3,000 was the bail amount. And even after he was released, the trauma of being incarcerated led him to end his own life. So what effect does cashless bail even have on recidivism? Because the other side of the argument is you've got to do something with people accused of crimes.
Right. So, this notion that there's a fundamental unfairness that somebody like Khalif Browder, who is obviously presumed innocent, would have been kept in jail. He was 16 years old for 3 years before he was given a right to a trial. And so the reform movements eliminated this requirement in order to get rid of that unfairness. And so if, President Trump is right that this is a way to get crime under control, then, that would be at least consistent with his policies. But the studies and data are incomplete and complex and do not show that there is a correlation between eliminating cash bail and reducing crime, or essentially making it such that these individuals do not repeat their crimes. And the data is much more complex.
And that's what I'm talking about. We need to stop worrying about this cashless bail. We need to start doing preventative measures so people do not commit crimes. So when they commit certain crimes, the punishment should be pretty severe to show the rest of the country, hey, you commit this type of crime, this is the exact punishment you're gonna get. It's not a bunch of jail time. In my opinion, whatever crime you commit, as long as it's proven in court, solid evidence, the punishment should be the crime that you committed. So if you took somebody's life, your life needs to be taken out. I don't believe murderers, sex offenders, they can come back into society and pretend that what they did is just gonna go away because time said. It's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna work. No matter how many people are gonna talk and try to change somebody into the evil thoughts that they, had while committing the crimes that they did, it's just not the answer. There needs to be a harsher punishment to prevent people from committing these crimes. Because there's people out there that are criminals that are like, well, you know what, if I do this, I'm only gonna, spend a couple nights in jail, or I'm only gonna spend like a couple years in jail. And these are the people that are okay with that. But we need to change that. We need to change that, because especially when you get into the gang territory, where a lot of these guys will throw themselves under their bus to protect their leaders or the rest of their gang members, and take the bullet instead of throwing everybody under the bus. There just needs to be a harsher punishment. We need to work on really focusing on getting rid of crime, and the ways criminals are thinking is just the root of it all. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. Till next time, peace out, everybody.